we'll get started on this thing unless they run me off the stage. Disclaimer, we have to do this. This is where it gets fun. What we want to discuss: current gap. Is it real? Are we missing something? How certs can help? How upskilling can help? And then we'll kind of wrap up. But we expect everyone here to participate. Like in school, hopefully we won't have problems with people. They will actually come up to the microphones. And if you do have questions, please come up to a microphone. But we want to make this interactive. Interactive sessions tend to work the best in my history. So I'm Ron Culler. I'm the Vice President of Cyber Development Programs for CompTIA. I'm a strategist for their cybersecurity programs, their learning certifications, and just picked up the AI product line as well. So we're going to have some interesting things to do in the next year. My cohort here, Keytron.
I'm Keytron Evans. I'm the Vice President of Product Portfolio Strategy for InfoSec Institute.
So we both do a lot of training stuff. I'm a 30-year industry veteran, a practitioner, ran my own cybersecurity company and dealt with the pains of hiring and decided to start teaching. So let's jump into the talent thing. If you're not aware, there's a website out there called cyberseek.org. We're a co-sponsor of that. It's got Department of Labor data. It's cyberseek.org. We have a contribution to it. There's a lot of data in there, but what it tells us is there's about 500,000 open jobs in cyber right now. And it gives us some data inside of that, some insights into those. When people ask for a brand new, that entry-level role, they're still asking for degrees. They're still requiring degrees. They're still requiring 2 to 3 years experience. I think that's part of the reason they stay up there, because there's really no such animal as an entry-level position for 50, 60K that has a 4-year cybersecurity degree and 2 to 3 years experience. But if you look at other survey data, things out there, you see that ISC2 said that they believe it's about 5 million open jobs globally. These things are not going away. That's just by what the industry and government classifies as a tech cybersecurity job. We haven't touched on anything else. OT, the IoT, the advanced manufacturing, energy sectors, telecommunications, healthcare. They all have technology that we know exists on our networks and in our environments and can't do anything about. They're all controlled by those field engineers. They're classified in those sectors. There's going to come a time really soon where these guys are going to start getting classified in cybersecurity roles. And what does that do to a 500,000 number? The amount of people in those sectors. So we've got a lot of stuff out there, and it is a very, very real situation. And what are you seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other things too is I run a pen testing, incident response, cyber threat hunting firm as well. And some of the things that I've seen over the years as we go in and help organizations respond to data breaches, we have these job roles that are defined. And what I found out is as I talk to these organizations, as I start asking questions, well, why didn't somebody do this? Why didn't somebody do that? Even though we have the role, we have a person that's basically doing that role, but they're also doing 5 other roles. So a lot of times you have someone that came in as like a network engineer, but they're doing that, they're managing applications, they're managing security, they're doing all these other things.
Right.
So that security role doesn't actually have a person dedicated to it. And I see some smiles in here because I know some of you probably in that position to where you've absorbed these roles over time. And the issue with that speaks to Ron's point. If we really look at the true vacancy, it's a lot bigger than what's being reported, I believe.
Right.
Because people are not being allowed to fully do the job. Like they're doing like 10% of their time doing that cyber role that on the books they're doing, but they're also doing like 50 other things. So once we get all of that stuff kind of quantitated out, we'll see that the numbers are probably even a lot more.
Yeah, and one of the issues that we've seen for decades now, because of the incessant need to use the same job posting requirement that says 4-year degree, or I've actually seen one that said they wanted a master's degree for an entry-level cyber role, is that in the university space, cybersecurity degree programs are relatively new. When you think of every other program out there, computer science programs are technically relatively new. They've been around for a while, but they really didn't pick up until the 80s and 90s, to the early 2000s. Cybersecurity didn't come in until later, and I've evaluated a lot of these things, and a lot of cybersecurity degrees right now, whether it's a bachelor's or a master's, is a computer science degree with some, encryption electives and some cyber electives. That's really it. So we have people that are going into these programs, have to have advanced math, have to have programming skills, and that's not necessary. And if they're taking the cyber degree, they're learning encryption for 2 years. That's not necessary in this role. That's not necessary in the vast majority of cyber roles or tech roles. So, we're putting barriers up, and where we need skills, where we need people to understand how networks work, how applications work, how security should be implemented. They're not getting that in a course, and that's where our certifications come in.
And the problem just kind of exponentially expounds too, because of the fact that if you think about that person that's got a computer science degree and they've kind of morphed into now being responsible for cyber, who does the hiring managers and the HR people go to say, we've created this new cybersecurity role?
Right.
Who's going to help them write that job description? It's going to be that person with that BS in computer science. And when they fill that job description, they're going to make it be, well, you got to at least have a BS in computer science.
Right.
And these things it just keeps compounding, and that's not what we actually need. And it's just because that person that's got that computer science background is also the one that's helping to write that job description. And that just makes the problem continue to grow.
Companies tend to look inside to what they have and mimic that. This works, so we need more of that. And unfortunately, that puts barriers, artificial barriers, in front of what we need. This industry needs diversity. This industry needs people from different cultures, different backgrounds, different learning capabilities, because it's not all sitting in a dark room wearing a hoodie, drinking a Mountain Dew, coding. It's something that cybersecurity spreads across everything, and we have to get that message out. Business schools should be teaching in business degrees the importance of cybersecurity, but it's financial, and when you sign your annual statements, you're at risk of going to jail if you're lying. They don't talk about the risk, the things on our side. Technology is what runs companies. Technology is what allows companies to become profitable, to get paid, to make things, to buy things. So cybersecurity and skills are across all those platforms.
Yeah, and we're still running off of the antiquated system for trying to educate people and things like that. Because one of my hobbies is I'm a licensed drone pilot, and to get your 107 license to be licensed to fly drones, the written test that you take is the same test that airline pilots take before they can go and get their hours and things like that. And it stops there, right? I don't have to go and get 10,000 hours of actual flight time, and I don't have to take the 17 other tests that actual airplane pilots have to take. But what we're doing in cyber is we're treating them the same, right? Like the people that need to do these very specific cyber jobs like entry-level SOC analysts, they're the equivalent of, they just need to take that first 107 test or whatever, but we're making them do everything that an airline pilot would do, and that's the way it used to be, but we don't need that. And that's part of why it takes so long for people to get in the industry, and it's also part of why it turns people off once they try to get in. You know, I've talked to thousands of people over the last 15 years that are trying to get in, and that's what happens is we say, well, yeah, you can come into cyber and make all this money, and it's very easy and quick to get in. And then they go apply for that first job, and it's like, yeah, you need a bachelor's degree in this, and you need that, and you need this, and you need that. So what we're saying, what we're projecting is not matching
Exactly.
what's actually happening in the industry, and we need to fix that. And that's what what Ron and I are trying to do together.
Exactly. We had, I was just at another session, and one of the things we were stressing is, like, from the federal government side, it's starting to trickle down through some executive orders. Some states are doing this, even some large tech companies are doing it, is they're removing the degree requirement as a requirement. It still shows up on the job posting, but it's not a requirement. And one thing that people need to know is, even if it says it, even if it says 2 to 3 years of experience and a degree, put your resume in and start reaching out. Because if you don't put it in because you walk up to that piece of paper that says, no, can't do that, and your imposter syndrome kicks in and you just walk away, you're never going to get the job. So there are ways to do it. And one thing that we found, and the industry's found really for a number of years, whether it's a vendor specific or vendor neutral, is certifications. You know, certifications in learning in technology are able to give individuals the skills without necessarily having a degree behind it. If you're, you know, say you're a Cisco shop, you expect the people in your shop to have certifications on how to use Cisco products. If you're a shop that sells Cisco products, then you have to have X number of people qualified in these platforms to be able to even sell it. You know, same with the vendor neutral, like CompTIA does. Our certifications are designed to build that foundation so that somebody understands they can walk in and get, you know, if they walk into a shop that's now Cisco, it's easier for them to go take a Cisco cert. Or it's a Palo Alto shop. They can go in and take a Palo Alto cert, and they understand why.
Right.
If they're changing, and companies do change, you know, if they're changing from one SIM platform to another, they understand what those platforms do. They understand why. And that's crucial. That's something that you don't get in a traditional 4-year degree program unless they've made the revolutionary step of actually aligning to job skills. Some universities are actually teaching to job skills. It's skills-based. Not everybody does it, though.
Right.
And that's something that's crucial.
Absolutely, and you know, even at InfoSec, our strategy, like a lot of our strategy going forward, is focused on that. You know, a lot of our content strategy, a lot of our product strategy is focused around building something out that's more skills based and not so heavily focused on, you know, what do you have a degree? Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it goes back to a lot of the things that we were talking about earlier too. When you look at these requirements and how do we get past that, there's going to have to be some strong partnerships with HR and those groups, because that's really where I think the biggest gateway is to getting, you know, getting this whole mindset changed around.
The one thing that's really unique about the technology certification industry, and whether it's training companies, the cert bodies themselves, combinations, whatever they may be, is that we understand that learners learn at their rate, at their pace, in their style. So if you go to a university, a 4-year university program, you've got set schedules.
Yeah.
You're taking this course. Now, if you already know that, you would want to blow through that course and take the next one and graduate early and get your job. A lot of places you can't do that. But in the tech industry with certifications and learning, you have that capability. You've got the ability to go in and learn at your pace. And that's critical.
It is. It absolutely is. And, you know, one of the questions I get over and over again over the years is, what is the real value of a certification? And more specifically, now people are saying, well, what's the value for you?
Right.
Like, what value have you gotten over the years? And I always tell the story of, you know, I had a customer back in the day, because my first company was just IT support.
Right.
And they had these backup, you know, these big backup machines that was like a carousel of tapes that somebody had to go in and switch the tapes out every week, you know, and take one off site and do all these things. And whenever someone did something silly like deleted a Word document and it didn't go to recycle bin, they'd have to go to that backup system in the tapes, pull that file off the tapes, and then restore it back to the network for that person to get it. And this was like in the early 2000s, like 2001. I went to do a certification. It was a Microsoft Certified Desktop Support Technician. Those of you that are old and ancient like me will remember when that was an actual certification through Microsoft. And I kind of, you know, didn't really want to go to the training and thought, like, this is stupid, like I already know how to do everything in Microsoft. And when I went there, one of the things I learned about, and Microsoft didn't advertise this, was something called Volume Shadow Copy Service. And what that is on any drive, you can enable that service, and now any document or any file on that system has versions. So if someone edits it, there's a previous version saved automatically. If someone deletes it, there's a version saved automatically. And then any person can just right-click that file and click previous versions, and they can go back and pick it like where you had it yesterday or where you had it last week. Didn't know that existed. So for that 5 days that I spent there, that one thing that I got for prepping for that certification made me lots of money, because now I could go back to that customer and other small businesses like that and say, look, there's no point in you going into your tape backups to get files like that. We can set this up to where each individual person can go get previous versions of their files without having to pull them off the tapes, right? So it completely changed how they were doing it. So to me, one of the biggest values of certifications is you shouldn't really look at it as going for this certification or getting this certification is going to give me exactly the skills that I need, but it's definitely going to give you a blueprint of the skills that you need to master. Now, the training and your practice is what gets you that hands-on to where you can demonstrate that you've mastered that skill. But if you didn't have the certification as a framework, you wouldn't really know. Like, I would have never known about Volume Shadow Copy Services because Microsoft didn't advertise it. Right? It's one of those things where the certification, that's one of the biggest values for me, is I know what skill sets I need to hone in on. And I think that still remains to be one of the most important parts of it today.
It's a valuable tool for organizations to know if they're hiring somebody, there's an advertised map of skill sets that are learned with that certification course. But then it's validated when an individual holds that actual certification. So they've actually done it. The just rote knowledge tests, not so much, but if you have practical performance, if you actually have to do something in the execution of this certification exam, that's a big thing. That's an amplifier. That shows the employer that you know exactly what goes on. But getting back to these 500,000 jobs out there and the fact that companies are trying to hire people, one of the things we found is that if you hire somebody to fill a role from outside of your organization, it's going to take them 6 months to a year to learn your organization, your infrastructure, your processes, to get the institutional knowledge about who does what, how, where, and why. That takes time. And during that time period, they may decide they don't want to do this. They don't want to work there. They don't like the technology. They don't like something. Or they just got an offer for more money. Turn inside, look inside your organizations, and you have people sitting in support desk roles, in network admin roles, in server admin roles, and sysadmins, and in development, and all of these different spaces, even outside of IT. You have people that are tech adjacent, using technology in their job roles, and they want to learn. They want to come on board. Well, you've got an entry cyber position open. You're having problems filling. It's been sitting there for three to 6 months. Turn around and look inside. Ask anybody in there, do you want to do something? We will upskill you. We will get you the certifications. That invests in the employee, that shows them that you're investing in them, makes them more ready to stay, but also they bring their institutional knowledge with them and skills that are specific to the job role. So you can then say, okay, maybe I need to take a guy from the support desk and give him Net Plus and maybe Security Plus, but then we have some specific tools that he needs to use. He's already got some of that knowledge to begin with, but give him the specific vendor tools he needs, and you have somebody individually designed for your job role.
Yeah, yeah.
And not this, amorphous thing of, we understand at a theoretical level how these things work. They have the skills to do
Right.
it and knowledge of your network.
Yeah, and I'll give you an anecdotal real situation that I helped the customer out with, where they posted an entry level, we all know what
Right.
that means, an entry level role of someone to do pretty intermediate level SOC work, right? That was what they posted, but they were calling it entry level, and they weren't getting any good applicants. So what I came in and said was like, look, you have these people doing these compliance scans, they're running Nessus and all this stuff every day.
Right.
I was like, why don't we recreate this role, make that role an upskill role for that person doing Nessus and all this, and then turn the role that you're hiring for into a true entry-level role that person can train someone on how to run Nessus scans and do that, and let's make this role be for that person
Right.
and just upskill that person.
It's
and
a
they
lot
did
easier
that.
to hire that person, that entry person, in a
For sure.
non-security role, and have them come in and learn. It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
There are a lot more of them out there, and you can create a cycle.
Yeah, it totally worked. The results were great, like that person rocked it in that role. And then the minute they opened that new role up, they reimagined that and made it a true entry-level role. There was all kind of applicants coming through that were actually qualified, and they got some really good candidates and hired a really good person to do that
Exactly.
job. So a lot of times the gap is there, but sometimes it's just you need to reimagine like where the gap actually is, right?
And it
based
doesn't have to
on
be-
the talent that you have.
It doesn't have to be in tech. I worked with mentored a guy going through our cybersecurity courses, and he's struggling. He wants a job. He wants to move out. He was an ultrasound technician and a radiology technician working in a hospital system, and he desperately wanted a job in tech and in cyber. And he had gone through and gotten all those certifications, but that experience requirement was something that hit him, because everybody looks at his resume and he's like, ultrasound technician. He's like, how do I do this? It's like, go to the internal IT InfoSec department of your hospital, of your organization, shadow them. Ask if you can sit there and work on the weekends or in the evenings. Get the experience, because when their next job role comes up, you can get it. And if you see something coming up and they're getting a new technology as you're shadowing, go get a cert for that, because that shows them that you're preparing to work in their environment.
Yeah.
And these are all critical things. But now the thing that no one's talking about, I know this is new. Let's get into this, dispel the myth. It's been around in cybersecurity for, 4 decades. So it's not like it is new, but it is. Generative AI has done to AI in general, the general term of it, what the iPhone did to the cloud, what Amazon did, what Google did. When the cloud was an icon, in Visio. It was this thing. It was ASP, application service providing. It was time sharing. Same thing. But, now it's hot. Well, same thing with AI. Everybody equates AI when they hear, when they think of Gen AI, the chat bots, the chat things, or generating imagery and things like that. You've done a lot of work on this, trying to figure out how to help people learn and then also, do their job quicker with ChatGPT or one of the variants out there. What are some of the experiences with it?
Yeah, so the session I did here Monday actually was a 2-hour learning lab on basically taking people that have never done malware analysis and getting them from zero to I can find this malware in this traffic capture and whatever the case may be, using generative AI and using the right prompting. And we had a variety of people in there. Some were very technical, but some were not technical at all. I had my CEO in the class and the person that's on my team that runs strategy and product for us, Colleen, who's here now.
You still have a job when you
I do still have a job for this time being. And both of them were able to get through it, right? And this is not something that they do every day. We had about 100 and so people in there, and most people were able to get through it pretty easily because of the prompting. Right. So I think what's happening and where this is going to help us with the gap is the learning curves to get from zero to effective in these cyber roles is going to shrink a lot, because we can get people from nothing to at least you can contribute and give the higher level, more experienced people the things they need to go dig deeper into that case or whatever it is, without having to go and spend 2 years memorizing a bunch of syntax.
Yeah. Who memorizes Wireshark or for
filters?
PCAP filters?
Only us old folks do that, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not effective.
It's one of these things I see for years prior to this capability, Google became our best friend. You're sitting there, it's like, God, I got to do an Nmap scan, and I can't remember for the life of me what the syntax is. I need this specific thing. So you're searching. Well, if your searching skills aren't that great, you're going down a rabbit hole. And you're going to be off in the middle of nowhere trying to figure something out that should have been quick. Go to a ChatGPT or Gemini or Anthropic or something like that, and you ask the question, I want to do this in natural language, and it comes back with the information. Now, you want to verify that. You want to validate it, because every now and then they do hallucinate. But that gives you a quick response. You're on your way. As an entry cyber analyst, even as an entry level support desk person, you need the technical details of what it is you're working on. Support desk, technical documentation for what the case was. In a SOC report, I need the technical documentation for exactly what happened. But the people above you don't read like that. They don't understand that. So you can take it in a controlled environment and feed that in and say, summarize this for somebody in a non-technical administrative role with bullet points. You could put 10 pages in there and it spits something out that you can then hand off, and then you take your technical documentation and upload it into your info, your knowledge base.
Yeah, and one of the things we did towards the end is I kind of had a secret hidden piece of undetectable malware running that no one could find, and I had them, we generated a netstat output and some other stuff and said, does anybody see anything malicious in what you see in your netstat output and in all of these outputs that you got from your machine? And there was nothing obvious there. So I said, let's take this, and we took it and copied that output into a prompt and said, tell me if there's anything we should be concerned about security-wise here. Right. And of course, it was able to identify the things that I'd hidden and say, well, I would look at this, and this port's been open this long, and this is the statistics on it, and that means that generally this piece of malware is probably operating somewhere on, like all of these insights that it would normally take an SME like myself or you to sit down and go through. it at least got that beginner to that point. Now, of course, me looking at that saying, well, yeah, it's port 31337, which is an obvious malware port, but now I'm concerned that there's actually something deeper that's hidden, because no real hacker would make it that obvious, right? But at least we got to that point.
Right.
So an absolute beginner can get us to that point now. Whereas before, it would take me 2 weeks looking through it, or somebody else looking through it in conjunction with that beginner to
Right.
get us to that point. So I think the gap is going to shrink, because we're going to innovate ways to get people to a productive state faster.
Right.
And that, in conjunction with some of the other things we're talking about, I think we can make a dent in the gap.
Oh, definitely. The one thing we have to realize is that AI is a tool. All technology is a tool. You know, we create technology to do a specific job, and then we figure out new ways to do things. You know, they didn't start building houses with, you know, circular saws and hammers and nail guns and all these things initially. They started out with mallets.
Yeah.
And, you know, they created the tools to improve their job, to make their job more efficient, to help them. And all our jobs are to understand what tools are out there and how to use those tools.
Yeah.
Certification and learning, training, practice gives us the ability to know how to use that tool. But at the same time, you know, yes, I got a certification on this, but I use it twice a year. You know, you see a computer science, cybersecurity degree, and you get 2 years of encryption algorithms. 2 years to learn how to write your own. Who does that? There's a handful of people that write encryption algorithms.
Yeah.
In our roles, you're creating SSL certs, you're doing VPN tunnels, you're setting up, you know, certificate services. That's what we're doing. But you don't do it every day. So you need to know quick. Well, if you don't have something saved that says, here's how you know, generate an SSL CSR, or here's how you do key generation, or here's what you're doing on a tunnel, having a chat bot in your environment that allows you to do that, you can easily, here's the syntax, quick, done, move on, because you have other things to do. So those are all critical for us.
Yeah, and let me protect us legally here. So I'm not condoning that you go and look at your computer's NetStat output and put that in the ChatGPT, because you're now taking private information and putting it into a public database. But you know what'll happen eventually is organizations will have their own internal copies of language models to where it's private. So anything you put in there stays inside there, stays in your organization.
Right.
Most organizations aren't there yet, but eventually we'll get
the
there.
large ones are working. One of the things with a large language model, the chat bots, is you need gargantuan amounts of data. Well, who has gargantuan amounts of data in security right now? Microsoft, Google,
Right.
Palo Alto, CrowdStrike, a couple of guys like that. You know, a handful of people can do that. And what they're starting to do is include the co-pilots and things like that. They're putting these tools out for users of those platforms, so you can start asking in a safe, in a controlled environment, because they can become, you know, part of your stack. So you have to make sure that you're doing it safe.
Yeah, and you know, not to get too far into the technology and the math, but what's happening now is that you can have a much smaller model than like the OpenAI model, have your own model, and use something called RAG, which is short for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And what that means is you can have your own model, but you can make a call out to like OpenAI to get access to that large data set without ever pushing your data out. In other words, you implement that technology in your own model, you don't need that entire model from OpenAI to just go out and retrieve information from it for what your specific task is. Now, in between that, there's fine tuning and other things that you do to make that work, but that's where the technology is now, like we have that capability.
So we've got, 15 minutes left or something like that, and we want to get you guys involved. We want to know what your questions are when it comes to certifications, upskilling, how to use some of this information that we've talked about to make your jobs easier, to hire better, to hire quicker, to improve the lives of people that want to upskill and move into different, into the technology world. So feel free, please use the microphones, and it's a free-for-all.
Yeah. Is that Micah?
I can project my voice though. Says it was right. Okay. Well, my name is Jade Bryant. I have a scholarship for women pursuing the education in cybersecurity, either degree or certification. But I meet a lot of, I'm from Chicago, meet a lot of women who are security guards. And I've seen far too many pregnant women who are security guards. And it's a domain in cybersecurity, and I have this. Just want them. I just want to give opportunity and show them hey, you can get a sit down job.
Yep.
You can actually.
For sure.
You already know a domain of
Yeah.
cybersecurity, and so, but there are not physical security certs that I'm aware of that I can kind of help direct them to provide opportunity for job advancement. So are you familiar with any?
There are some, and we can connect on LinkedIn or something, and I can point you to them. But most of them are under like facilities management and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they do have those physical security certifications and things.
Right,
So
but-
it's weird that it's
yeah.
under facilities management, but that's where you find a lot of that.
But you bring up a point though, that we have people in the cyber that are in a security role, but not necessarily aware of what cybersecurity is, what tech is. They use it all the time, but they don't understand that there's a place for them. And people that have certain skills, people that, if you're in physical security, you learn to watch people.
Yeah.
You learn to check things, check doors, watch patterns. The physical security world uses a lot of the same terminology that we do in cyber.
Right.
They look for intrusion detection. They look at heat maps. They look at patterns. Well, if you're doing that, you've got a leg up because, if we're sitting in a room and just looking at data coming across, we don't see the human factor.
Right.
We don't see the social engineering piece. I put on a brown suit and grab a package, and I can go anywhere in a building. I have my backpack, and I'm, Joe IT guy. I can go anywhere in a building,
Yeah.
and they just let us in.
And most, nobody's more intimately familiar with two-factor authentication than a physical security professional, because who were the first people to have to badge in and then enter a code to get into place? That's two-factor authentication. Something you have, the badge, something the code. So it's just teaching the terminology and just making sure we bridge that gap. But you're right, there's no concerted effort to do that out there.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see something
I
like that.
applaud you for trying.
Yeah. Keep doing it though. Like this should definitely exist.
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Shakira. Thank you for the great conversation. So on your point as to how we're crafting the job descriptions, you mentioned that us as hiring managers are pretty much crafting it based on our experience and our biases by putting in the requirement for the college degree, for
Right.
example. So how do we now, try to push the envelope with human resources when we want to justify the compensation for these roles, and we say, okay, we want to take off the requirement for the college degrees, when I think it's the general perception that college degree equal more money. So
Right.
how do we now change the narrative to say, okay, we should more so now look at the skill level of the candidate and then put in a compensation that's commensurate to their skill
Yeah.
level, not so much the college degree.
Well, you could start by looking at some of the things that are coming out of the federal government right now, and they've just reclassified a lot of positions in technology and have removed the degree requirement and mapped to skills. So they have that piece. There is still an issue when it comes to corporate mindsets that, you know, anybody that comes into a business and wants to move up, they're going to hit the ceiling. Oh, you can't be in management because you don't have a degree.
Right.
These things are going to have to change, but that's a longer process. One thing I would also suggest is that you go to them and say, look, we have these job requirements out there. It's been sitting there for 3 months, or we've gone through these candidates and we're still not getting the person we need. We hire them, they quit, or we let them go because they don't have the skills. So, you know, let you experiment, let you take the risk and remove it and see what kind of candidates you get.
Yeah, and I think the part of your question there too is, you know, if we take away that degree requirement and we say we want it based on skills, how do we verify those skills, right?
Right.
That's the question. And a lot of us in the industry are building things and working on things to kind of partner with you and help you be able to do that. I know we are,
Yeah.
and I know CompTIA is working on some things, and we're going to do some stuff together too.
Exactly.
to,
We
bring
actually
those
have
solutions.
a job posting optimizer that maps to skills. So on our website, on CompTIA's website, there's a job posting optimizer out there. It's free for you to use. So if you're posting, please go out there and take a look at it. See how it matches your job requirement. Yes.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. My name is Alex. I'm an IT engineer at Google. My question is, there's a lot of like gamified cybersecurity training out there, you know, like Try Hack Me and Hack the Box. Have you heard of that being effective in getting people to, you know, get past the requirements and get hired in a cybersecurity job? Thank you.
So let me give an unpopular answer to that. Here's what I've seen from that. What I've seen is the gamification methodologies are doing a great job of engaging people and keeping people in there doing these things, but I've not seen it tremendously translate to hands-on demonstrable skills that they can actually put into a job. So I've not seen a lot of people get hired because they did gamification versus other things. So I haven't seen that be as effective as I thought it would. Even I thought it was going to be very effective, like when that trend like really hit. So I think it kind of solves part of the problem. It helps to solve an engagement problem, but the transferable skills part, I think there needs to be like something else
I
that
agree.
plugs
I
onto it that gets
completely
us
agree
over
with
that hump.
Yeah, I've seen the same thing, is that I've seen gamified versions of Capture the Flag or, you know, cyber ranges and things like that, and a lot of what I look at doesn't equate to real world at all. It tells you how to go hack this thing. You know, your objective is to go do this. It's not a team sport, so you're not going out with your team, red team, blue team kind of things. And there's no ethics involved in it. They don't tell you, don't do this in real life. But it does solve that first issue. It gets somebody thinking, maybe I can, you know, maybe a job in tech would be good, but they need a place to go. Once they get the idea and the excitement, they need a path to actually learn skills.
Yeah.
Because it's not about reboot every time or reset and attack again. You know, you need to understand what you're doing. Very good question. Any other questions? Not a problem.
We'll do better mic placement design the next time.
Hi. So I'm a cybersecurity professor, and I picked up a lot of ideas on how to get students in front of all of these job postings that require entry-level skills. The shadowing is a pretty good idea, assuming that they're already working in a company that would offer that kind of thing.
Right.
But I teach in an environment where a lot of the students, first of all, I teach 4 or 5 cybersecurity classes. I do the all of the above approach. I do certification, I do professional training, I mix it all in there. The problem with some of these students is they're going out there and they're applying, and what happens is they they're starting to have trouble, and some of them are falling off the map. And a lot of them work in smaller companies that don't have a very good IT department
Right.
to shadow in. So what can I do in education to get them into these jobs that are out there? How can I kind of push them into these jobs more effectively without seeing them fall off the map and then have all this cyber training and they end up going to do something else because it's
Right.
the low-hanging fruit?
I think one key area is look for the industry, look for the businesses in your area. Make sure that what you're teaching matches the requirements that they need, but then get them involved and have them provide internship opportunities. Another is potentially apprenticeships. There are a lot of apprenticeship programs now where you can actually get paid while you go to school, while you learn on site, but you've got to go out and reach out to them. So there's federal, state, and local apprenticeship workforce training programs and internship programs are probably the best bet, but you got to talk to the companies and find out what they need. I've done a lot of advisory roles in the past with local colleges, community colleges, universities, and they're like, we want tech jobs. Okay, what tech companies in town can we talk to? We're this tiny little fraction of the companies in that city or area that use technology. And they don't ask them. Go ask them, because those are the guys. The technical guys, they're working there. Go ask the businesses in your area, the industries.
Yeah, I think the key is going to be partnerships, right? Like we recently announced a partnership with a university to where we're actually plugging in and doing all the labs and all the hands-on training for their bachelor's degree program, right? And through that, we also have a big relationship with companies where we do upskilling and things like that. So there's going to be a natural relationship there where people might come through that university through our training into opportunities with these jobs. So I would say go to these local businesses and maybe try to create like a board, like a council or something, where you get some people from those local companies on there and meet with them once a month, once a quarter, to help them inform you on what you're doing. And also that creates a relationship to where maybe you can send 1, 2, 3 people a year to some of these places to get employed, and that starts that process, right? And then your program as it goes forward can kind of evolve more in line to do something like that.
Yeah,
So
when
I
you
think it
start
starts with
recognizing that
partnerships.
star pupil, and you've got guys that are like, I need somebody with these kind of skills, you have the ability to start offering them out employment opportunities. Okay. And that's a great thing. And then if you get those businesses to follow on and look at upskilling employees, they come back to you because they know you are able to deliver the type of skill set they need. So that becomes a two-way relationship between industry and education.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Oh, and by the way, I do push CompTIA a lot, so you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Katrina Cooper. I work for the federal government as a systems engineer / manager now, and that was news to me that they're dropping the degree requirement to piggyback off of Shakira. Our agency actually not only requires the degree, you can't even apply for a job online without the degree. As a matter of fact, in order to do a work role that's technical, you have to have certain certifications
Right.
now. And as well as they give you a 10% STEM increase. So that was news to me. I had never heard that. I'm wondering.
These are programs that are just
Yeah.
coming out of the Office of National Cyber Director out of the White House. So they were on my panel just the previous session.
And they just announced
yeah.
it like last week or the week before.
Yeah, this is announced and is starting to be pushed out. So you will see this as they reclassify technical jobs to remove that requirement.
Interesting. I'll take that back because I'm wondering if we're gonna participate. It's weird. It's just a whole.
Oh, I know.
change of-
The federal government's huge, and it's not one of these things that necessarily trickles down fast.
I mean, and there's thousands of agencies too, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
if 6 don't have to do it, but 4,800 others do, it's still the majority. So hopefully, I would like to see it go to every agency, but I know a couple of them, specifically the one I used to work at, I know they're very hesitant because I've been having that conversation.
Yeah, there's some 3-letter agencies out there. that-
Three-letter,
require it,
DC, yeah.
Yeah.
Fort Meade,
We'll get
yeah.
there though.
All right, guys. Unfortunately, we have the stop sign, so we're going to have to wrap up so you guys can, see the rest of the event and get all your goodies downstairs. And if you want to stop by booth 3112 downstairs, that's CompTIA. We can get you more information. We've got offers for vouchers and all kinds of goodies out there. So please stop by and see us.
Come to the InfoSec booth and see you can actually take a little test to see what job role you fit into. Thanks.